Hi, everyone. I'm Allison, owner and founder of Pink Nannies. And before we begin, I just want to share a little context with our listeners because I didn't enter the newborn care industry recently. This work has been part of my life for as long as I can remember. My sister Danielle, she was one of a small group of newborn care specialists and one of the first in the United States. And she was the founder of Pink Newborn Services, which is a sister company of Pink Nannies. And because of that, I grew up around this work long before it had structure and credentials and really a title. I watched women build something meaningful without a roadmap, guided by instinct and care and deep responsibility for families. And that's how I came to know today's guest, not through social media or credentials, but firsthand in the earliest days of this profession. And I've known Tonya for over 18 years. I've watched her raise two children, build a life with her husband, Todd, and quietly shape an industry with integrity and so much intention. Tonya is the founder of Newborn Care Solutions. She is the creator of the only CACHE-accredited newborn care training program here in the United States. A longtime leader within the International Nanny Association. Tonya, I believe you were the co-president. And she is also a pioneer for professional newborn care education. But more than titles, Tonya represents the heart of this work, the service, the education, and the belief that families deserve better support during the most vulnerable season of life. I want to start before the industry knew your name, Tonya. Tell me so much more about you. Who were you before all of this, before the programs, before the leadership, the roles, the stages? Tell us all about you.
So I grew up, first off, thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
It's an honor to be asked, and I really appreciate it. I grew up in the Pacific Northwest and actually started my nanny career immediately out of high school because I put myself through college. And so I was a live-in nanny for two single moms who were going to school and kind of they shared a house. They had two little girls that were the same age, and they kind of shared the responsibility of having me in order to make it so that they could go to college also. So we were a bunch of young women living in a big house, going to school with a couple of toddlers. But because I was paying my own way through school, I was also waitressing. I was also a overnight gas station bookkeeper and attendant. So I worked overnights, even in college, but I wasn't doing the childcare. That was during the day. And when I got done with college, I just needed a break. And so I answered an ad in my college newspaper for a job with a newborn baby in New York City. And got hired and flew to New York, had no idea what I was doing. I came from a little town of 2,000 people right into the heart of New York. But I quickly discovered that I absolutely loved working with newborns. And of course, I didn't know what I didn't know back then. And I was not getting paid fair wages for what I was doing, all the things, right? And I was on 24-hour a day, 7-day a week care for this newborn baby. And I was like, I got to figure out how to get this kid to sleep, or I'm never going to get any sleep. And so I started doing a bunch of research and quickly discovered that I had a passion for understanding babies and understanding their impact on families. So honestly, the whole baby thing started really early with me, and the research started early. I had my first newborn as a babysitter at 11. And the baby was only a few days old. And to me, that's crazy now. As a mom who's raised kids, I can't even imagine leaving my 7 or 9 day old baby with an 11-year-old kid.
Oh my gosh.
But that's where it was with newborns. But it really kicked off right after college. And I have been working all over the United States and traveling around the world with clients pretty much ever since with young kids. 2 or 3 times I've tried to get out of this industry. I even applied for medical school at one point, thinking I was going to become a pediatrician, and walked away from that. Babies have just been my passion my whole life, and they still are.
Wow. Hearing you talk about this really, it just takes me back. Like early on, this work wasn't casual for you. You
Mm-mm.
weren't just good with babies. You understood the responsibility of stepping into a family's home during that most vulnerable time of the season, even if you were 11. And I see the difference that makes now with the families and the candidates that we work with here at Pink Nannies. It's the caregivers who think this way shows up differently, right? Families feel safer, nannies feel more grounded. Looking back, it makes complete sense that you went on to help shape standards because that level of intention was already there.
Yeah. And it came from, just necessity. The whole phrase, what necessity is the mother of invention. And in that moment, it was necessity for me, but it quickly became a passion that I recognized was already there. I just didn't really understand it at that point.
Yeah.
So
And do you remember when that shifted from being something you loved into something that you knew was your calling? Like, is there a moment that's instilled in your brain?
probably when I walked away from medical school, because my grandparents thought I had lost my mind. And were just like, I cannot believe you're going to walk away from medical school to be a nanny. And um, so I think that was really kind of the huge moment for me of just saying, this is what I love. I love working with families, particularly with newborn babies. And I sought out, very intentionally sought out roles where there were newborn babies. I only had one role ever where I had older kids. And all of my friends were like, "You're going to what?" Because they knew that I really love babies. I've joked for years that I really have a thing about once kids are 5 years old, they're faster than me and smarter than me. And so I generally like them a lot younger. But it really, I think that was the moment, was when I walked away from medical school.
That really lands for me. Calling, it's not loud or dramatic. It's something that settles in and it doesn't let go. And I've always seen that in you. When I also talk to candidates now, I can tell who feels that same pull.
Mhm.
It's not just passion, it's like a sense of responsibility, and that combination is rare. I've also, it's also why families trust the people that we place when that calling is really there. So this kind of leads me into this question. What are mothers carrying silently in those early weeks that no one really prepares them for?
I really feel like a lot of them, there's several things. One, I think they're not prepared for that sense of responsibility,
Hmm.
in the sense that a lot of them know, yeah, I have a baby coming, but they don't realize that when that baby is in their arms, it hits them like a ton of bricks. And it's literally, I would do anything to protect this child. I don't think they understand before the first baby comes how strong that is. And that, we call it the mother bear kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing, but I don't think they understand how strong that sense of responsibility is. Um, and that it's never going to change. My kids are 17 and 21 now, and my 21-year-old just moved back home. And there's a part of me that is sleeping more soundly now that he's back under my own roof versus out in an apartment and going to school and doing all the things. And this is temporary,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't change the fact it never goes away, that sense of responsibility and care, and that you would literally do anything to protect your child. Um, but I think early on that becomes massively overwhelming, right? We're so used to
Mm-hmm.
taking care of ourselves, maybe having a partner, maybe not, depending on the circumstance. Um, it's a different level of responsibility
Yeah.
to someone else in a way that we cannot experience until you actually become a parent. I think there's that. I think a lot of moms don't have any idea how physically this is going to impact their body. They think they do. They do their research. Everybody has a birth plan.
Mm-hmm.
Very few people have a postpartum plan. Very few people have a recovery plan. And I think a lot of moms think that they're just going to hop up a day or two later, and everything's going to be fine again. And it takes a lot longer to recover physically, both from a physiological standpoint, um, but also just the everyday life and the changes and the things that hurt in our bodies that didn't hurt before. And a lot of times we're just not really prepared for that. Um, I think a lot of people too aren't prepared for the change in their relationships. Whether that's with a partner, they're not prepared for relationship changes with, say, their parents or their partner's parents. You know, they oftentimes don't realize what's really coming. But I also think that's a good thing, because I think a lot of times if we really understood what was coming, we might not do this at all. um, so I joke a lot of times people would, when I was pregnant with my child, the first time people would say, "Aren't you so excited about this?" And I was like, well, yes, I am. But having worked in the industry that I work in, I don't have the same kind of rose colored glasses that other expectant moms do. I know what's coming.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and it changes you, but I think it changes you in a good way. It's absolutely worth it.
Yeah. I can definitely say, like, just myself, when I was pregnant, everyone's like, oh, like, are you so anxious to get the baby out? And I was like, I would love for him or her to cook as long as they possibly can, because my life is going to vastly change once
Yes.
this baby arrives. So
Yeah.
I agree. Well, I want to pause here because I also feel like this is exactly what we see with so many families who come to us. They think that, if they're having like postpartum, or their relationship is failing, or, maybe they're not getting along with their in-laws because, like, hey, I need you to wash your hands, take off your shoes, don't kiss my baby. Like, they think that they're failing as a mom, as a wife, as a mother, and when really they were never supported in the way that they should have been. Um, and what you're describing, I feel like it's not failures of mothers, because a lot of people think that they are failures if they're having postpartum anxiety or postpartum depression. I feel like it's a gap in care. And
Yes.
when we can name that honestly, it completely changes how families experience this season of life and how caregivers can really support them with a newborn.
Yeah, absolutely.
You said that newborn care specialists don't just help babies, that they change the experience of motherhood. What does an empowered mother look like in your perspective?
So, one of the things that I say in our trainings for our newborn care specialists is I say, at the end of the day, if you haven't left an empowered parent, you haven't fully done your job. And I am passionate about the fact that when we are working with families, we are not there just to care for the baby. We are there to help parents feel empowered. And I think a lot of that is, one, taking a step back and observing and recognizing where a parent is feeling like they're failing. A lot of the parents you and I both have worked for are immensely powerful people in their industries and in the things that they're doing. And there's nothing like a 7-pound baby to bring them to their knees really fast. And when someone is so used to feeling competent and so used to running the show, and then things don't go smoothly, sometimes we have to really watch, see where they're struggling, and then find ways to come alongside them quietly and encourage them and help them. Hey, that swaddle that you did this morning is fantastic. And we're not patronizing them, right? We're acknowledging that things that come easily to us are sometimes a challenge for other people. And everybody, no matter their status in life, everybody needs encouragement. And so to look for the things that they're doing right and to really make a point of pointing those out with sincerity and integrity, and making sure that the parent recognizes their wins. And when we do that, we make a difference for them. Sometimes it's also listening. I talked to somebody just last week who said, I'm working with this new mom. She's the president of some bank or something. And she's feeling like she's completely failing. And she's like, I really wanted to sleep, but I spent the entire night listening to this mom unload all of her fears and her frustrations and whatever. So sometimes it's just being there and being a safe space to listen to. And sometimes it's also helping them find the outside support that we're not qualified to provide, because newborn care specialists are not medical providers.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes a parent is having health issues or they're having mental health issues, and we need to be a resource for them. We joked about it earlier, but if they're the mom who's coughing or laughing and also peeing themselves, we need to help them find a pelvic floor therapist,
Yeah.
right? Or we need to help if there's lactation issues. I know as a new mom, when my son was a brand new baby, I was having lactation issues. I didn't know anything at that point in my life or career about lactation. And I asked my pediatrician. Well, guess what? Pediatricians generally don't know much of anything. Now, some of them do, some of them are fabulous. But I got bad advice, not because my pediatrician didn't mean well, he did, but he just didn't know. And so sometimes it is helping them find the resources that can really support the things that aren't going well so they can start feeling successful.
Whew. That image just like gives me chills, right? Like a mom like going through all these things, but a mother leaving that season feeling steadier, more confident, and less alone. That's the transformation people don't always realize that they're signing up for when they get a newborn care specialist. And
Yeah.
it's something that we talk about a lot, because when care is done well, it doesn't just solve problems, it changes how a mother sees herself, and that impacts the entire family.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah, I 100% agree. You could have continued doing private newborn care indefinitely.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you feel called into education?
It's kind of it's a multifaceted thing. Part of it is I'm a big believer in collaborative work. So I look at other people who work in my industry, whether they're other newborn care specialists working privately, whether they're other agency owners, et cetera. Even other educators. I don't look at it as a competition.
Mm-hmm.
I look at it as when we are all working together, supporting each other, encouraging each other, more families and more babies benefit. And at the heart of it, babies are my why. They always have been. I love seeing babies thrive, not just get by. I love seeing babies thrive because when babies are thriving, that means families are usually thriving, right? And it's just an exponential effect. And so I already was getting people saying to me, hey, I want to do what you do. And this was before there was actually even an official term. This was before 2007.
Mm-hmm.
People were like, I love this. I love that you do this. How can we, I want to do this. And so I was just telling people, I showed up at an INA conference, the one where we came up with an approach to INA with the term newborn care specialist. I was supposed to teach an hour and a half class as an optional session on a Thursday. And I ended up, without any kind of set agenda, teaching all day Saturday, in addition to what we did on Thursday, because people were like, I want to learn more. I want to learn more. I want to learn more. And my husband was the one who said, I think there's a business here. I think you can help more people. And my thought process always has been, if I can help you learn, if I can help other people learn, then that means families and babies are going to have better care.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always been a passionate researcher, a learner. I am a lifelong learner. I believe if you're going to be any good in this industry, you need to be a lifelong learner, no matter what it is, because things change. And what we knew, what we did, what you and I did, almost 20 years ago, there's a lot of things we do differently now. Because, the classic saying, when we know better, we do better.
Mm-hmm.
And as we learn, as recommendations change, as science teaches us more things, I want to keep learning and then pass that learning on to other people because the babies and the families benefit.
Yeah. And this is one of those things that I admire so much about you. Education is the long game. It's choosing impact over ease. And I remember watching that shift happen and thinking, this is how professionals mature. And at Pink Nannies, we see the ripple effects of that choice every single day. The caregivers who invest in education, they show up calmer, they're more confident, they're more prepared, And families feel that immediately. And I feel like you are the reason for the entire shift of really our industry. And it's so incredible when I think about Newborn Care Solution is the only CACHE-accredited newborn care training program in the United States. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, there is through, oh, I can't think of what it's called. There's one nanny training program that has a CACHE part of it, but it's not a CACHE approved newborn care training program. It's just part of their nanny program. But we are the only one in the United States. In fact, we're the only one in the world.
Oh, okay. Wow.
And we teach students. We have students on 4 continents.
Okay, so am I saying it wrong? I said CACHE and it's CACHE?
It's CACHE.
Okay, CACHE-accredited. Okay.
Yeah, but everybody pronounces it CACHE, so it doesn't.
I've been pronouncing it CACHE since you guys became accredited.
But that's what it looks like, right?
Yeah.
And people say that all the time. But yeah, it is. We are the only one in the world, actually.
And why does that matter? Why being a CACHE-accredited training program, why does that matter?
So there are a variety of what I will call accreditations out there. You can buy them. Mm-hmm. You can write a check and they'll give you a stamp of approval. CACHE doesn't work that way. CACHE is different. Number one, CACHE was founded in 1945, and it is where British nannies have to go through if they want to get certified. There's a whole thing there, and we all know the reputation of British nannies. Now, it's not affiliated with Norland and the nanny school there. It's not affiliated there, but it is an oversight program for child care training, and it has existed since 1945. It's essentially a gold standard. And CACHE, I didn't have to write them a check. But what I had to do was spend 2 years going through their process and refining our process. Mm-hmm. And refining our testing process. And they verify every single word that we teach.
Wow.
They verify every resource that we use. They brought in a newborn specialist in order to evaluate our program, because they didn't actually even have somebody to evaluate our program, because nothing like it had ever been created before. And they requested certain changes that we had to make in order to get their approval. We are audited every single year through the program. Wow. And they pull our records, they pull our testing, they review our materials. So everything that we do is audited every single year in order to stay accredited through CACHE. And it is essentially, it's not exactly, but what I say to people is it's kind of looking at like the US Department of Education. That's the closest I can say it's similar to, but it is a true outside third party that doesn't make any money off my training program. And I didn't have to write them a check, like I said, and they verify everything that we do. And so to me, if I was going to go after an accreditation, I wanted it to be legitimate. I also wanted an international perspective. One, because I knew we were going to have students outside the United States. Mm-hmm. Two, because while the American Academy of Pediatrics does amazing things, there are also really amazing programs outside the United States. And not every client that we have is a US citizen, or not every client that we have was born and raised in the United States. So I wanted a broader cultural perspective. I wanted our students to have an understanding of care in other countries. Other countries sometimes are doing more or better research than we are here in the United States for a variety of reasons. So I wanted to have an international perspective. So everything that we teach isn't based solely on AAP guidelines, although it does meet AAP guidelines. But it also meets guidelines for a whole variety of pediatric associations in Australia, in Canada, in the UK, in Israel, in Sweden, in Finland. Wow. We have resources from all over the world as part of our training, rather than just solely a US-based focus, in order to serve clients better.
Wow. And I really want people to hear this clearly. Like, this isn't about credentials for you or the sake of credentials. What you built gave legitimacy and dignity to work that had long been misunderstood. I feel like it changes, or it changed how families hire, how agencies place, how caregivers see themselves. And as someone who's been deeply involved in this industry from multiple different angles, I can say with certainty that this has raised the bar for everyone involved.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Of course. It's amazing. You've done amazing work, and I've been on the sideline cheering you on for so long. You've also served in leadership at the highest levels of this industry. So what has leadership taught you, and what would you say leadership has costed you?
I've been on multiple boards. I was on the board with DEMA for a while and was a DEMA local, chapter president. I've been co-president of the International Nanny Association. I served on their regular board, their executive board, and then was co-president for 2 years. I've also served with Private Service Alliance as part of their education committee and helped create their certification program. I feel like in many ways, it's taught me that there are some really amazing people working in this industry. But when an industry is unregulated, it is challenging to make it feasible for those people to really make a difference long term, even when they have the best of intentions. Because it's hard to do things with all volunteer boards. Mm-hmm. It's hard to get things accomplished when people have to work their full-time jobs and make things go. But it also showed me that you can make a difference. When I started on the board of the INA, there was no nanny credentialing exam. There was no NCS credentialing exam. There were no standards other than, hey, here's the written, what we should be doing. And so I got to be a part of seeing both of those things come to fruition. To see an entire newborn care specialist track added to the INA conference program. Wow. Through the work that I did together with several other really amazing people who worked hard, because it was not me alone by any stretch of the imagination. There were a lot of people who really wanted to make a difference, wanted to professionalize this, because when there are standards, then families ultimately get the benefit of that. And so there's amazing people that have done work, and it's usually behind the scenes. It's kind of a quote unquote thankless job, but at the end of the day, I don't look for, and I don't think the other people involved did either, I don't look for the public praise as a thank you. To me, the thank you is how the families benefit from it. Yeah. And I know that sounds, a little corny, but it just really is that important for me. What does it cost me? We all know social media is ugly in many ways. And there have been times when decisions were made that I wasn't, as the co-president, for example, of INA, I didn't have a vote in any of the decisions. The president does not have voting power.
I did not know that.
Now, the president only has tiebreaker power. So if there was a vote that was 50-50, then the president would step in and vote. That never happened during the time that I was on the INA board at all, let alone when I was co-president. Never happened. But other than that, the president has no vote. But the president takes all the heat.
Of course.
If people don't like the decisions that are made. And the reality is you can never please everybody. And so you have to look at things from a perspective of, what do I think is best for the industry? And in my case, I always looked at everything as, what is ultimately going to be best for the families that are on the ultimate receiving end of this industry? Whether you're a nanny, whether you're a newborn care specialist, whether you're an agency, whether you're one of the service providers like GTM or Homework Solutions or, Home Pay, how are the families going to benefit from this? And how will this decision or this vote or this policy, how will this impact that? And I always tried my best. Look, the reality is everybody's biased to some degree, but I tried my best to always take myself out of any equation that I was part of and look at what's best for the industry because what's best for the families. Um, but it's hard. It's hard to take the heat every single week, every single day, because it comes in on a pretty regular basis. And so anybody who's in that kind of role has to either have or very quickly develop thick skin or have a really good place to vent. And I'm very fortunate that I have a husband who's really good at listening. But then because you have to also maintain the privacy, et cetera, it has to be a safe space, not only for you to talk, but also to maintain privacy. And so, like, even if I shared things with him, I never shared names. I never shared agency names. I never shared candidate names, anything like that. It was just, this is what happened today. And I'm so frustrated because I had to always maintain that NDA that you sign in that kind of role. So it can be very isolating sometimes.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being so honest about that. I feel like leadership in caregiving spaces is often framed as like soft or natural, and there's nothing easy about carrying responsibilities for an entire profession. So, what you're naming is, I feel like, the quiet weight most people never see, and it's something leaders rarely get credit for, even though it shapes everything. So, thank you for all of your work.
Oh, thanks.
Was there ever a moment that, like, during this time where you felt like the weight was just too much, or like ever a moment in your life when you thought about stepping away from all of this?
Yeah, there have been times. To a significant degree, not 100%, but to a significant degree, after my son was born, I stepped away for a couple of years. My son has a birth injury, and that required my 100% commitment to him. Because for the first 2 years of his life, between therapy appointments, the work that we did at home, and doctor's appointments, that consumed everything that we did in order to help him heal to the best of his ability from the birth injury that he had. And so I very significantly stepped away for a period of time because I needed to focus on my family. And I think that's why I'm very understanding when somebody says my family or my child or my partner or my marriage or whatever. I'm very much understand that need to prioritize that. So for a couple of years I stepped away, but I was still doing sleep consulting here and there. And once that was much more stable, yeah, I jumped back in with both feet. One, because my son was sleeping through the night, so it was easy for me to take clients because my husband didn't have to deal with much. But it's always been a passion. There have also been times where, if I'm being totally transparent, where sometimes the social cost and the attacks that can come from being in a leadership position have certainly made me think maybe I should walk away. Maybe I should just say, look, I'm done with this. Most people can tolerate a lot when they feel appreciated and they feel valued, even if there's things coming at them. When you don't feel appreciated or you don't feel valued, it certainly crosses your mind now and then. But it's always been my passion. And you know, when you have a passion, you have to follow it, whether you plan to or not.
Yeah. Well, thank you for trusting us with all that information. I think it's important for people to hear that there are seasons when the work has to pause so that the person can be cared for, especially in a profession built around giving. What I admire is that even in those moments, you didn't lose your sense of who you were or what mattered or your family. You honored your son, yourself, your husband, your body, and that really takes a different kind of strength, more than what people usually talk about.
Yeah, it can be.
Yeah. Yeah, when you look at like the next generation of newborn care specialists and just someone working in this field, what do you hope that they protect about this work now that you've shared with us a little bit more about like how you feel sometimes and stepping away and like taking care of your son and just the emotions that go into it? What would you look at the next generation of newborn care specialists, and what do you think that should be sacred about their job?
Yeah. So we've got some really phenomenal up and coming newborn care specialists in the industry. And it's for me, it's such an honor to get to be part of their journey and their experience. At our conference this last year, you know how normally when you go to a conference, they're like, oh, can all the, people who've been in for 20 years stand up?
Yeah.
Or people 40 years, right? I said, I want everybody in the room who's been in this industry less than 3 years to stand up. And I said, and I want all the rest of you to turn around and look at these people, because this is the future of our industry right here. And look at these people. They're only in this 1, 2, 3 years. They're essentially just babies in this industry.
Yep.
And look at their dedication. They're here. And especially, I was like, agencies that are in this room, because we get a lot of agencies who come to our conference. I'm like, pay attention. These are the people you want to know. These are the people you want to meet. And we have some phenomenal people coming into this industry. But I try to be really honest with them about this work. And I say, look, even if you take all the social stuff aside and put that aside, this is hard work.
Oh, yeah.
And it's hard on your body if you don't take care of yourself. It's hard on your health. It will destroy your health if you do not take care of yourself. It will destroy your relationships if you don't take care of those. It will pull you away from your kids if you don't make time for that. I will tell you, my 17-year-old still doesn't like babies because her viewpoint is babies took her mom away.
Oh, yeah.
When she was young, even though she was asleep, it was babies took her away. And she doesn't like babies. We'll be in a store and a baby cries and she's like, make it stop.
You could. Give me that baby.
Well, it's not my baby. So, not that I haven't. I have a whole hashtag that I use called I don't even know his name.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, because I end up with somebody's baby in my lap on almost every plane.
I was just going to say, on those airplanes, you know what, I think you actually told me a story about, I think we were in like Colorado or something like that. And you're like, yeah, on the way here, I walked the baby up and down and I was swaddling the baby and I was shushing the baby and the baby just laid on my chest the rest of the ride. And I'm like, what?
It happens all the time.
Yeah, but this was like 10, 15 years ago that you had told me this. And like little me was like, oh my gosh, like someone would just give their baby to a stranger. But yeah, I mean, yeah, because they trust you. They immediately, they feel your warmth and they just know. Moms know.
They get it. Yeah, they get it most of the time. But anyway, it's one of those things that the new people in this industry, I want to make sure they have a really clear understanding of it, but I also want them to understand that getting to come into someone's home during what is very arguably one of the most vulnerable times in their life, I consider that a sacred responsibility. And it isn't just about the baby. It's about the whole family and being there and helping this family feel safe, helping them feel seen, helping them feel confident, and helping them move forward into parenting. It really is. It's a sacred space to be in, and it is an immense responsibility. And if you are not going into this industry understanding that, you're going in for the wrong reason. And so they need to understand there's a lot of positive, right? That is one of the most amazing feelings in the world, to be in a household and see a new parent be successful the first time when they're, say, trying to breastfeed, or be successful the first time they got a swaddle right, or be successful the first time they managed to stay calm so their baby calmed down. Because that's really the only secret at the end of the day, is it's easier for me to stay calm than it is a new parent. And babies co-regulate. It is a direct impact on their calmness. And to see a parent get it and be successful, I love that when I'm in a home. And people who understand that are the ones who are going to be really, really good at this. And I say, at the end of the day, you can be really good at doing this job. But it's the people who really get babies who are great at this job.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I can teach you all kinds of things, but I can never teach you how to understand a baby. That's something I believe you either have or you don't.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
yeah, and that's the difference between really good and great
Mm-hmm.
in this industry. And you can still be really good and be very successful, but that's where the difference is. And I see those people, you know how you said you can tell in an interview? I can tell in a training.
Yeah.
I can sit in a training, and from the questions, from the engagement, from the eye contact, from the look on their face, I know who's going to be great in this industry and who's not, just from being in the classroom with them.
Yeah. It's just, I feel like it's a gift where you can be so in tune. I think it's a lot of emotional intelligence as well, and just being in this industry for a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, you know, I think all that you said, that feels like such an important charge to all of this. And I hope that the nannies listening, they understand how much trust is embedded in that and in them, in this program, and to be a newborn care specialist. And protecting this work means protecting the families and the caregivers and the integrity of the profession itself. So, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know so many individuals who are going to be so interested in listening to all that you have to say. And, you know, if there's one thing that you wish that, like, every nanny going into the newborn care specialist would know about the newborn stage, or no, let's flip it. Let's say if there's one thing that you wish every family understood about the newborn stage, being a brand new parent, what would it be? And then we'll go into the candidates.
Yeah. What would I want every parent to know going into this? That it's harder than we're told. You know, we're not told the truth about how hard it is. And yet your baby, it sounds funny, but your baby will forgive you for your mistakes, right? We all make mistakes. You've been doing this for a long time. I've been doing this for a long time. But you know what? I know you made mistakes, and so did I. And new parents will make mistakes. Babies will forgive you for those mistakes, in a sense that as long as we are providing them with love, as long as we are making that effort to have physical contact with them and emotional contact with them, we're going to mess up. We're going to get some things wrong, and it's not going to matter at the end of the day. It's not going to matter, because the things that you do right are going to override the things that you do wrong. And so I would want new parents to be more gracious with themselves, because nobody is harder on themselves than a new parent who wants to get it right. And every little mistake, you know, I tell my candidates all the time not to clip baby nails. File baby nails, fine, but don't clip baby nails. I clip my son's nails, and the first time I clipped my son's nail, I cut him.
No.
And his little finger bled, and he cried, and I cried.
Yeah.
And I felt like the worst parent on the planet over a little tiny nick in the skin. At the end of the day, we all mess up at some point, but
we're all human.
Yeah, exactly. And it's okay. It's part of the job. Messing up is part of the job, because we're also then teaching our children about being human.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I really hope that families hear that. Understanding understanding this before entering the newborn stage can completely change how supported and how confident they feel while they're in it. And I think that having a newborn care specialist, just myself, I mean, I'm a newborn care specialist, but when I had a baby, every single child, which I only have 3, I had a newborn care specialist. And I had them until my kids were sleeping through the night. And that's what I needed for myself, like just in like the postpartum stage. And I had postpartum anxiety, and I would have nightmares about driving over a bridge. And like I went on like it's a really, I say it's silly, but it's not silly, because like parents go through it. But I used to think about like driving, because I was going through postpartum anxiety and this was my first. Going over a bridge, and if the car went into the water, how would I get my son out fast enough? And I went through lengths of going online and buying a seatbelt slasher and putting it in every door of my SUV. And then I was like, hey, like, this is not something I should be dealing with. I need to get on medicine. Like, I need more of a support system at home. Like, I need more of a support system, like, with my OB. Like, this has to be communicated. And I feel like that's what really matters here and like what we're talking about, right? There's newborn stages, but there's also phases that a mom goes through, a dad goes through, two dads, two moms, whatever it might be. Everyone needs to feel supported while they're in this, and they need to feel confident in their abilities to take care of kids.
Yep, absolutely. And you know what? I had a newborn care specialist with both of my babies too.
Yeah. It's a luxury, but I'm so deeply invested in, like, when a family calls and they're like, I'm pregnant. I'm like, do you know about what a newborn care specialist is? And they're like, no, tell me. And I'm like, okay. So it's a very exciting time of a family's life, but I think that the more education that we have on it, the better we off. And like, you know, when a mom is pregnant, like they're always Googling, right? Like you have insomnia, so you're up in the middle of the night and you're Googling like birth and a birth plan and everything that you need for a nursery. I think if you just Google what is the number one thing that I would recommend if it's in your budget, it's a newborn care specialist.
Absolutely. It's a game changer.
Yeah.
And I cannot tell you how many clients say this changed everything.
Yeah.
And it did for me too. With my son, I initially I didn't hire anybody to begin with. And then we had a very difficult delivery and he had a birth injury and I was an absolute train wreck. And I say without hesitation, Claylee, who was my newborn care specialist, came in and it changed everything. She saved my son in my world and she saved me because I was an absolute train wreck. And it was the best thing I ever did. So when I was pregnant with my daughter, first phone call was to my husband. The very second phone call, 5 minutes later, was to her.
We hear that.
What are you doing next spring?
Yeah. Yep. We hear that. Definitely. Well, Tonya, I want to thank you truly, not just for this conversation, but for the life that you've devoted to candidates, to families, to education, and to doing this work with integrity when it would have been easier not to, right? I've had a front row seat to this industry for decades, and I've done the work, and I've grown up alongside it, and I've watched you build something that didn't just change careers, it really changed lives. So, you know, what you've built isn't just a program or a credential. It's really a standard of care, and it's a standard for so many of us at Pink Nannies, and we believe in deeply and that we work every single day to uphold. This conversation feels full circle for me, and I know it's going to mean something to the caregivers and the families that listen in. So thank you for being you, and thank you for staying, and thank you for letting me hold space for your story today.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Well, you have a great day. I will talk to you very soon.
Okay, sounds fabulous.
Bye.